Let's sit in a comfortable meditation posture and close the eyes. Put the attention on the silence that is always there deep in the mind. Connect with and become that silence. You are the silent witness. Now, from the perspective of the silent witness, listen to the words of the Yoga Vasishta today. Continuing with Book 5, Chapter 13, verse 90. The powers of the intellect and vibration combined with those of imagination and will, which constitutes the mind, produce all worldly evils, unless they are weakened and kept under restraint. So this whole collection of energies, intellect and vibration, imagination and will, these all arise from individual karmic traces. And beneath these are some divine karmic traces as well. So this is our challenge, balancing all individual karmic traces and ultimately all divine karmic traces. When we assume ownership of those divine karmic traces, the time will come when we will assume the ownership of the divine karmic traces. That's when we have identified with the Anandamaya Kosha and become the creator of the universe. The way we keep them under restraint and weaken them is by a regular program of balancing these karmic traces. When intellect thinks or has perception by the pulsation caused by the air, the wind of breath gives pulsation to the intellect and causes its power of reasoning. So this is an interesting understanding as well. We're told here that it is prana that gives the intellect the power of reasoning. In Kali Yuga, the main feature of life in Kali Yuga is the fractured state of pranamaya kosha and annamaya kosha, physical body and prana body. Hence, one of the most important aspects of our sadhana is total integration of prana body and physical body. This is why we devote 10 minutes in every session to the Flying Sutra. Flying Sutra has this incredible, unique, singular ability to integrate prana body and physical body. So this serves to give us greater intellectual power. That means we have greater power of discrimination. Discrimination between what is silent witness and what is not. That's the fundamental discrimination. So it all works together as a unified whole. Every aspect of the Sahasra Sirsha Brahma meditation has been engineered for the rapid balancing of all karmic traces. It is the intellectual power that gives rise to all the thoughts and desires of the mind. See, without this intellectual power, we do not become aware of our karmic traces. And as long as we're not aware of our karmic traces, they are like sleeping elephants. We don't even know they're there. We just live our life on the backs of these sleeping elephants, thinking this hilly region is normal terra firma, but it's not. As we build our intellectual power, it wakes up the sleeping elephants. And all sorts of karmic traces arise. Then we have to own these karmic traces. We have to accept them as worthy of being balanced. Then we can balance them. And that's one less elephant in the room to worry about. The vibrating intellect, extending over the undivided sphere of the universe, is truly thinking power. The mind is a false imagination, like the ghost of infants. The intellect is the power of reasoning which cannot be thwarted anywhere by anything else, like the mind, as there is no power to contest the Almighty Indra. Thus, as there is no relation between reasoning and the mind, it is wrong to attribute the mind with the power of thinking. The two are unrelated. The mind is basically constituted of the sleeping elephants and the ones that are roaming about awake. The karmic traces. The intellect is literally the Shakti, the power of the pranamaya kosha. Now, the Shakti can be used to either balance karmic traces or create more. Improper use of Shakti just drills us deeper into the well of samsara. Proper use of Shakti carries us out. How can this union of consciousness with only its vibration be called the mind with its multifarious functions? The commander alone, without the component parts of cavalry, elephants, and others, cannot be called an army. Therefore, there is no such thing as a good or bad mind in any of the three worlds. The bias of its existence will be utterly removed by full knowledge of spirituality. That means by identifying and becoming the silent witness. That's what full knowledge of spirituality is. It is in vain and to no purpose that people imagine the existence of the mind. It's like imagining the existence of a mirage. Why do that? We all know a mirage is pure illusion. This is improper application of Shakti. When we use Shakti to reinforce and develop the illusion, it's a total waste and the improper use of it. And by using it in that way, we create more karmic traces. Shakti should be used exclusively for the power of the intellect. It requires significant Shakti to have the power of the intellect to give us the ability to discriminate between finer and finer states of the illusion and the silent witness. And as we progress, more and more and more Shakti is needed. This is why people plateau in their spiritual quest to achieve enlightenment, is for lack of Shakti. This is why one needs a guru, an enlightened being who has sufficient access to Shakti and will give it to you, grant it to you. Without this additional Shakti, we find ourselves stuck in the mud of samsara. We cannot get out. We cannot get out of the mud on our own. We must have the help of the Guru. Therefore, O magnanimous Ra, never give rise to false imaginations of any kind, and particularly that of the mind, which never exists anywhere. Now, on our program of Sahasra Sirsha Brahma, we constantly employ the imagination, don't we? This is an integral part of Sanyama. But we're very judicious about the way we employ imagination. We don't just imagine anything. We only employ it to imagine the outcome of various sutras in their manifestation. That is proper use of Shakti. With the Acharya Deva Guru, we're given the Shakti we need to progress. It's like tying a rope to a car stuck in the mud. The Guru simply pulls the rope, and the car comes out of the mud. But without that rope, we cannot get out. False fantasies arise like a mirage from the lack of full knowledge of things. They spring in the heart, which is as barren as a desert, for want of the rain of full knowledge. Full knowledge, of course, is the silent witness. The mind is a dead thing, owing to its lack of form or action. And yet, as it is idolized in the circles of common people, it is a wonder. It is a wonder that the mind, having no soul for essence, no body or size or support of its own, should spread its net over all ignorant minds. One who falls victim to this unarmed and impotent mind is like a man who has his body and has been injured by a lotus flower falling upon it. The man who is undone by his intent, dumb and blinded mind, is like one who complains of being burned by the cool beams of the full moon. People are truly killed by an antagonist who is ever present before them. But it is a wonder that the ignorant are foiled by the non-existent mind of their own making. What is the power of that, which is a creation of mere fancy, an unreal presentation of ignorance, and which, being sought after, is nowhere to be found? It is a great wonder that men should be overcome by their impotent minds that deal only in delusions. Ignorance is ever exposed to dangers, and the ignorant are always the victims of error. Know the unreal world is the creation of only ignorance and of the ignorant. Oh, the misery of miseries, that the ignorant make this creation of ignorance for themselves, and that they fabricate a living soul for the purpose of their suffering. It is simply by lack of identification with the silent witness that we have fallen into the mud of samsara, that we have fabricated all these miseries, all this fear, this conflict, this suffering. We fabricate it all. By our lack of connection with the silent witness. I know this frail world is a creation of the false imagination of the ignorant, and that this earth is as fragile as to be broken and carried away by the waves of the ocean. It is like black eyeliner that is broken down by surrounding waters or seas, serving as its grinding mill. Yet, men are maddened with it, like those struck by moonbeams. The visible world disappears at the sight of reason, just as a man flies from the sight of his foe. The mind's streams of imaginary creations flee like hosts of demons defeated by the gods. Thus, this world, which is a false creation of fancy and exists nowhere except in the idle brains of the ignorant, is lost into nothing at the sight of reason. He who is not able to govern his mind and efface the thoughts of this false world that only arise in the minds of the ignorant is not worthy of being advised in the abstruse doctrines of spirituality. So this is our first qualification. Being able to govern the mind and efface the thoughts. That means we must learn how to effectively practice the technique of dharana. With dharana, we are thinking a thought, not just letting the mind think anything it wants to think. So in that way, we're governing the mind. And through the thinking of this thought, the energy, the Shakti that we impart to this thought by our thinking of it, and our thinking it, our process of creating this vibration in the mind with Shakti causes the source of all the thoughts to be eliminated. It is literally the act of bringing light into a dark room. The reality is only light exists. Only light is real. Darkness is the absence of light. It's the other side of light. It isn't the unreal side of light. When we bring light into the mind by connecting with and becoming the silent witness, the mind literally disappears. Just like darkness disappears when we bring light into a dark room. Those who are confirmed and self-sufficient in their belief of what can be perceived by the physical senses are unable to grasp the subtle science of abstract philosophy, and therefore are unfit to receive spiritual instruction. Now, the ability to grasp subtle aspects of abstract philosophy belongs to the intellect. And the intellect needs energy to function. Intellect is the proper application of Shakti. So it's all fits together in that way. Let's continue, established as the silent witness, and begin the process of Trimana Samyama. on the esoteric Mahamantra, the most powerful of all techniques for balancing karmic traces. And we'll balance the karmic traces, the elephants that have moved, that have started to wake up during this reading of the Yoga Vasishta. Jai Gurudev.